morning and welcome to the Light on Suitability podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Comeau, with Daryl and Sean again, and also joining us again, lucky for us, is Michele Garfinkle, and we really appreciate her time. Today, we wanted to talk about, I'm calling it healthy relationships. I'm actually talking about board requirements. This, Michele and I have both seen an increase in the discussion at the Board of Parole hearings about relationships. And so when the guys have relationships or relationships has been an issue in the past, they are looking for sort of a relapse prevention planning around relationships, for lack of a better word. So the case that I had, my client had been married, I want to say 5 years to his wife. They had struggles though, as we all do, while their relationship had been going on, she on the outside, him on the inside, and they made it work. They continued to make it work, but it was apparent in the record that there had been issues because there had been, you know, sign-offs. I guess you guys have sign-offs. You can talk to clarify this, but the sign-offs on who can write you, who can't write you. And so there was a bit of that drama in the record. And so the panel was really on him about not having made a relapse prevention plan for that on the outside, because a lot of guys get returned for domestic violence. It's the number tied with the other number one reason, which is a substance abuse. So those issues come up. Women are, you know, a different creature sometimes. And a lot of times for the men coming out of prison, it's a different reality on top of all the other stressors. So they really had a deep dive with him into that. And it went on and on, I would say 30 minutes. And then the DA chimed in and it was a big deal. And one of the things I argued was it's sort of discrimination against him because he already has a relationship in place where another inmate could just leave, get an relationship started in a week or two after being released, and he doesn't have to go through all these hoops. So that's something that I saw after he was granted parole. And because his victim was a female, not in a relationship, it was a bystander, unfortunately, in a gun crime. But anyway, it had nothing to do with relationships. But in any event, the governor was going to scrutinize that case because of his victim. And so what we did was we sat down and I said that the planning for release is not ended. I think you need to continue taking self-helps for relationships, strengthen your relationships, making plans, and, you know, getting me chronos so I can submit those to legal before they open your file to see if you're going to stay as a grant or be referred or reversed. So we did do that, and he did do that because he was very, very serious. His wife, I'm sorry, also took some relationship planning stuff, and there was a lot of codependency going on there. So long story there. And then Michele has her own version where and I'll let her tell this portion, but her client had relationship issues and she counseled him to a grant. It really was her advice to follow through on that led to the grant of parole. And I'll let her chime in on that right now and what she did to counsel him to a grant of parole on that issue. And her also tell us about why you thought maybe that was going to be an issue at the parole hearing.
Real quick, Elizabeth, did George get granted or a denial?
He got granted in spite of all of the long conversation that I thought was leading to a denial, where they would say denied and go back and get some healthy relationship planning. And I said, well, that's not really fair. If he had no relationship and just started one 2 weeks later after he got out of prison, he wouldn't even need that to get granted parole. So now you're making it kind of arbitrary. for one inmate and not another. But he's
Thank you
still
for doing
pending review. So
Thank you for that. That was so wise of you.
Yeah, congratulations.
And congratulations to you and to him.
yeah, we're still standing by on that one. So we'll see.
Okay. All right, Michele.
So I've had a few different situations with relationships in my hearings. And there's one particular commissioner who's very, very strict on having relationship plans. I pretty much advise all of my clients to have a healthy relationship plan, not a relapse prevention plan unless they have domestic violence issues. But any one of my clients that is either in a relationship, and even if they're not in a relationship, the chances are they're going to be, even if they don't think they are. So I have all of my clients now, or at least I recommend that they do a healthy relationship plan. And that can be just as simple as what one looks like and what you're going to do to maintain it. And it can be more detailed if you're in a relationship. A lot of times, especially in your parole plans, I also recommend if you are in a relationship, that part of that is to always have, whether it be a marriage counselor, a pastor, just a neutral third party that you can talk to before there's problems. A lot of people get married while they're in custody. They don't do any premarital counseling. And so it's sometimes a good idea to do that when you get out and just continue it so that you have somebody neutral that you can always go to and not feel judged. But what I've seen in specific in the one case that I had, my client had met his wife while he was incarcerated, so he had never lived with her before. She had had some problems in her past, criminal stuff, that the board had already mentioned having concerns that his parole plans stemmed around her. The psychologist also had those same concerns. But he didn't really think it was a big deal. They were still together even after the last hearing. But I made it really clear to him that that was kind of the biggest risk factor in his case from everything that I had read. And so what I advised him to do, and to speak with his wife, because obviously he has to be comfortable in his decision and making his plan. But I advise this actually to most of my clients that are married anyway, that after transitional housing, that rather than move right in with your wife, especially if you've never lived with her before, because she does deserve to be courted. You've never gotten to date your wife. So just to move right in, she's missing out on everything that she should have had while you were in custody. But not only for that, if you go and get a job and get your own place, you first of all know that you can do it on your own. So if God forbid something happens in your relationship, you know you can take care of yourself after transitional housing because you've gotten the skills. You now can show yourself that you can do it. It also gives you the opportunity, like I said, to really get to know your significant other in the free world. Really get to date, get to know their children if they have them, their family members, and formulate a really solid foundation on the outside. Because it's different when you get out, I think, than when you're inside. So that's one of the things I say, and do that for 6 months to a year. The other thing you can do that is also nice during that time, depending on your significant other situation, but if you can find a place together to live in versus you moving into your significant other's home, it puts you really on an equal footing. You've chosen where you're going to be together. Everything is equal. No one can say this is my house. There's none of that. And those are just little things that people argue, even if you've never been to prison. People argue about that on the outside all the time. Well, it's my house. Get out. So if that happens, first of all, in a situation where you found it together, well, it's our house. So now you have to make some decisions. But again, if you've gone from transitional housing to supporting yourself for some period of time, it's not going to set you back on any type of relapse in your thoughts, because you're going to be like, you know what, I've done it before, I can do it again. And you'll have the resources in place for that. And so they weren't really susceptible to it when I first talked to them, but I made it really clear that he was going to get denied parole again if his entire plan stemmed around his wife. And his entire plan did stem around her again, because he didn't have as much community and family support as some people do. And so it was important that he had a plan to stand on his own 2 feet and get support on the outside, get support letters from transitional housing, get support letters from places like ARC, but utilize what's out there so you do have community support and you're not just dependent upon one person, because anything can happen in the blink of an eye. It's not even just that the person might not want to be with you. People change their minds, people get sick, God forbid, people get in car accidents. You don't know what tomorrow holds. So you kind of have to live every day to be able to take care of yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's before Sean starts to talk, I just want to say both Elizabeth and Michelle, your advice is tremendous. Tremendous. Getting out of prison, no one that I know of have ever heard anything like this. And not just a relationship between a man and a woman or wife and husband, but also relationships with your family. I'm a real personal person, so a lot of times I get ridiculed for my listeners because I don't talk about relationship because it has so many flaws and so many errors, and it's just so many holes in it coming out of prison. And it is a reality, what you're saying, because when we had David on the show, David really expressed to us that in prison, you meet a person, you're with a person during visit, during a letter, and then you fill in all the blanks with what you want a person to be, and then you get out of prison and you realize that that person is not who you made that person up in your mind to be, and vice versa. You're not who that person made up in their mind to be. So a lot of times it's instant clash, and then a lot of us, and I'm gonna say this, I went to prison at 17 years old. My listeners, everyone knows this. I barely knew how to be a child, how to be a son, and I was a father. I had a 5-month-old child. So I didn't know how to be a father. I barely knew how to be a child. Now I come home 33 years later, and I got to learn how to be a husband. I got to learn how to be a father, a grandfather. And honestly, I don't have a clue. I'm winging it, I'm winging it because we didn't have that discussion that you were having with your clients. I didn't have that discussion. I didn't have that discussion in any of our groups. So, and there's a lot of issues, I got issues, serious issues, in trying to maintain relationship, whether it's family, whether it's marriage, whether it's, I'm having big things, but you gave a lot of insight. And the thing is, you got to learn how to stand on your own 2 feet before you walk into anything, the reality of it. You have to be able to stand on your own 2 feet. And I'm learning this because I have some friends who, and I've never experienced this, who've been in relationships, and the person they were in said, "This is my house. You got to go. I don't like how you're living." And God forbid that ever happens to me. I don't know what I would do, how I would respond, because you're giving up your independence you're giving up who you are, to be a part of someone else's life. And if that person is not fond of you, then it could be disastrous. So I think your advice, both of you, were really good. Sean, I just try to lay a platform for you. You're looking at me all like that, like, yeah, let me see what you got, bro.
No, I'm just laughing. I'm thinking because it was a few people that came back to prison as a lifer, and one of the issues that he came back was his girlfriend. And so on one of them, he was chasing her. He was doing good. He used to be on drugs. He got off drugs while he was in prison. And so she was on drugs when he got out. And so he was trying to get her right. And then she ended up moving out of town, and then he ended up falling right behind her. And when he did that, he left his whole support team in the town that he was at and moved out somewhere where he didn't know anybody. And now he's in her territory where all her family members is and all her little drug buddies was. And so eventually he ended up starting doing drugs, and he relapsed. And so he ended up coming back to prison for that. He ended up getting out, but just because the law changed. And so he gets granted, and then he gets out. Well, the law changed for him and he got out. But yeah, we were talking about that in CGA about relationships, on how to deal with things. And I know, as you said, I got issues. And that was never it was never brought up to take classes like that. We never looked at it like that, because we was like, okay, I've been with this girl while I was incarcerated for this amount of time. When I come home, we good, right? but it's not like that. It's not like that. It's totally different when you live with someone. As we know, we got friends on the yard, and then when you move in the cell with them, oh my God, it's like, man, I love you, but I cannot live with you at all. And so one of us got to move. We're going to fighting. It's just going to be bad, right? And so we've been in many situations like that. But like we good while we hanging out on the yard, but we cannot live together. And so it's the same way with coming out of prison. If you have a wife or a girlfriend that you've been with, and then when you come out living with her, and then that thing of well, this is my house. That happens a lot. And I love the way Michele, tells her clients, because I think it is important that when you get out of the transitional house, to get your own place, to be able to know how to stand up on your own 2 feet if something happens, if you get into an argument or the relationship doesn't work out, right? And you have to go your separate ways. You need to know how to get out there and get your own stuff, stand up on your own 2 feet. So that's very important. That is excellent advice. I wish that was told to us when we were getting out. And as you said, Daryl, we've been going, I was going 28 years. So, I raised my daughter from prison, but, being home and just being an everyday at-home dad is a totally different thing. I was only a dad, I was a dad 7 days a week, but really on the weekends, and it wasn't every weekend. And so being home is a totally different ball game from that. Everything. And being with your woman is totally different. And I'm a grandpa. So I'm learning as I go. I'm making mistakes. I got a beautiful woman who understands me, and I let her know that, hey, I got issues, but I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best, and we thriving, right? We have our issues, but it's funny that Michele and Elizabeth is bringing this up, because me and her have been talking about it a lot and seeing other people go through things. So yeah, that's beautiful advice. I love that advice.
And it's really for even just family members, even if you're going to go live with, your sister or your mother or your daughter, people are set in their ways. I had a client once get out, and his wife, I'm going to be honest, because I went to the house. She wasn't the neatest, lightweight hoarding, just a lot of stuff. And he came out after living at Solano in a cell, so he had a very little bit of space to put his things. So she was annoyed that everything he had was folded neat and perfect and fit into like one drawer. And it made him, a little stressed out having just that much chaos around him.
Yes.
And that was a huge problem for them. And they really had to get help and work on it, because those little problems, little things that irritate you, blow up and destroy your relationship.
Indeed. I totally agree. It does.
There is something that has to be understood. I'm understanding that I don't understand.
Say that, repeat yourself. Start over again, Daryl.
Okay, yeah, somebody, my supervisor, my boss was trying to call. They probably want me to do some overtime. But anyway, I have the strong belief, and I say this to everybody: I don't know you. I don't know you, because what we show our best side, because we want to be appealing. We don't want to be left alone. And when you got those codependency issues and you just need somebody, you're going to give them exactly what you think they want.
Exactly.
But when you're face to face and you start seeing and you start peeling the layers down and you start really getting to know them, you're like, well, I don't even know you. Because the first time, as Michele said, when anger comes in, the true person surfaces. And they don't have to be angry of you. You can be angry of their own family member, their friend, and they show you a side and you be like, oh, wow, who was that?
For real.
I mean, really. And now I'm afraid that person may one day turn on me. So it makes me, think. And, I mean, really, and I say, wow, because I'm the first person to say, I love my mother to death, but I don't know my mother because I was gone out of her life for 33 years. My sisters, my brother, I love everybody that's in my life. I love them, but I don't know them. And I have to be honest, because that's the only way I can walk into a relationship with them saying, let's get to know each other first. And that don't mean let's be in the house living together. It ain't gonna work like that.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm listening to Michele, Elizabeth. This is phenomenal. And I tell you, we're gonna need a part 2, part 3, part 4. Just to really get me to open up, because you guys, I don't talk about stuff because I'm just,
you don't.
You know, and I'm gonna say this. I don't like to talk about things because I like to protect the people who are in my life. You know, right. I don't like to expose their vulnerabilities or their shortcomings, because some people, the slightest thing you say, they never forgive you. So I don't want to go through that.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm open. I tell everything about myself. I'm not going to talk about other people, because people don't know how to accept constructive criticism. They don't know how to embrace the fact that someone's paying close enough attention, that want to help them, that loves them and wants the best for them. They don't want to embrace that. So I don't talk about stuff. You know, John, we talk every day. I don't talk about nothing. You know?
For real. And it's funny that you said it, because my nephew last night, we were at his house, and it was his birthday, so he gave me a hug, and he was telling his mom, he was like, I love my uncle. I know about my uncle, but I don't know my uncle. And he said it twice, and it didn't click with me the first time, but the second time he said it, he said, I love him, but I don't know him. We getting to know each other now. And that's how it is with all of my family members. Like, and I let them know that, as you were saying, Daryl, you guys don't know me. I don't know you guys. You guys know the old Sean.
Exactly.
Right? You know the old Sean, and so you live off the memories, right? And that's not me anymore. And so I find myself doing the same thing a little bit with some of my nieces and stuff. Like when they left, they was real young. And one of my nieces said, Uncle, I'm not a little girl anymore. You know, I'm a grown woman now, right? And it kind of stung a little bit, but I was like, okay, you right. You know, but you still my baby. You still my sweetheart, right? And so I'm learning my family. I'm learning, you know, my girlfriend. I'm learning, and they're learning me. And so it's very important that we learn each other and keep that mind. It's called being mindful.
Yes, and I want to add to this. And Michele, Elizabeth, please comment on this. We have to learn who we are as a person outside of prison before we can allow someone else to know who we are. Because many of us, we go through a traumatic transformation stage just upon being released. Like she just mentioned, all the stressors.
Yeah.
Here you are trying to compel me to be this knight in shining armor, when I'm trying to figure out how to work, how to live in society. I mean, slow down.
Out at Starbucks.
Yes.
You have to learn so many little things, and it's frustrating, and it's better to be able to do it on your own and get to know whoever you're going to be with, even if, like, again, it's just a family member, but specifically in a relationship.
In a relationship, yes.
It's not going to be that easy for you to tell your significant other the little things that are embarrassing sometimes, depending on your relationship. But I had a client once literally call me in tears because he couldn't check out at Starbucks. He had his little debit card. He didn't know how the machine worked, and people made him feel that he was stupid. And he called me in tears, a grown man coming out of prison. And he was like, he didn't know who to talk to about it. And so I had to explain to him how these things are used, and just sometimes maybe look at people and say, I'm sorry, I haven't done this before. Would appreciate your patience. But he was so distraught that he couldn't check out for a cup of coffee. And so that's why doing things on your own and having that transition process is nice, because sometimes people on the outside just don't understand what you're going through, even those that love you and have been around you, in your life forever. It's the little things that we don't think about on the outside. It's overwhelming.
And that's funny that you said that, because when I got out, everybody has credit cards. When I left, we just kept cash money. We didn't have no cards. And so when every store that you go into, it's used by card. And so I really didn't know how to work it. And so when I first got my bank card and I'm trying to do it and they doing, and so the teller and them, everywhere I go, they looking at me like, what's wrong with you? Like, you stupid or something? And so it was embarrassing for me. And then there's people standing behind me waiting, and they got to tell me which way to slide the card, which way to stick the card in. And they looking at me like, is this dude crazy? And so,
like, who are
They tell
you?
you to hurry
Yeah.
up, or they get
yeah, yes. And so what I started doing, because I was embarrassed and I really didn't want to tell people, that, hey, I just got out of prison. Can you give me a break a minute? So I just started pulling money out of my bank account and started carrying more cash than anything. And then my girlfriend started teaching me, and I'm better now. I go up in there and slide it in, stick the card in, whatever, tap it on top. I'm with it
I
now.
just learned how to tap.
Yeah, I just learned that on the tapping. She's like, "Baby, you don't have to stick it in, just tap it, right?" And so it is embarrassing. But what I was doing with my family, there were some things I didn't know, technology and all that. And so really I was embarrassed, but I made a joke out of it. I was like, hey, I've been gone 28 years. I don't know nothing about that. And so that was my anthem with my family members. And they just used to be like, oh, what? You've been locked up 28 years? Exactly. So you have to tell me how to do this, because I don't know.
And each day we're still learning things, the smallest things. Because I'm gonna tell you this, coming out of prison during COVID, I went to a transitional house, but we don't have guidance counselors that were going to walk us through every little step of the way. So those little bitty things that we should have learned, like the first 30 days, we didn't get that. Right. And I'm gonna tell you something. I went to the gas station, and I don't like going to the gas station in Los Angeles because Los Angeles is Los Angeles. So I get out the car, I'm already looking around. I got a card that, okay, I'm gonna use. And I'm trying to use the card. It's not working. I get so frustrated. I throw the card back in the car, go in my pocket, go to cash. I mean,
Does
but now I'm good now.
Come on a card now? Isn't the gate
I'm good
on a card? Because I
do it all now. Now I do it all now. I'm good.
Yeah.
But when you get out of prison, your gate money's on a card.
Oh, yes, it is.
Because
I had
know how to cut it on.
Trying to figure out how to set it up. I picked up a client from prison, and it took a couple of us to get that thing set up.
That's right. And do you know how frustrating it is? Listen, for a man in the presence of women, and he can't function. I mean, we're already scared to death. And our inadequacies, we try to keep them to ourselves. And I mean, and like you said, Sean, you're at the counter, and they like, I'm putting the card in upside down. Okay, then they like turn it around this way. They like swipe it. I'm swiping it on the wrong side, and then it said PIN code. I said, "What's that? What's that?" And then I got so frustrated with my loved ones because no one prepared me for this. And I have to say, before we go anywhere, you tell me what I'm going to experience so I can be prepared, so I don't be embarrassed. And really, just thinking about it makes me really feel some type of way. Because I'm a strong individual, but I know many people come home, they don't have the mindset to continue to push forward, and they're cave in. They're cave in, So I mean, this is really big, and people don't know what we're going through. And I tell people in my job, people in my transitional house, family and friends, you all don't know what I'm going through every day, and I've been home 7 months now. They don't know still. When I'm looking at the world, I'm still looking at it like Mork from Ork.
And Daryl and Sean, you both have decent communication skills where you found ways to communicate with your loved ones to get that help. A lot of guys don't. And some of the problems that you both face, some of us in society face it also. It's not on the same level, but I literally just learned how to tap recently, and the guy at the store had to show me how to do it because I still couldn't figure it out because I tap backwards, and we just laugh about it. But, when you're coming out of prison, your insecurities come back and things that you didn't know about. And some of those feelings from when you were 17 might even come back when you start to feel less than because you can't use the technology. And families don't really understand it to that level. They don't understand that they have to help and explain to you what's out there, literally from what you missed from when you left. Because yeah, you have TV and maybe you used a cell phone or two in prison, maybe you didn't. I've had clients that have never touched them and couldn't believe when they got out it was a computer in their hands. And we don't in the free world think about those little things that we have to teach each other and teach our loved ones when they come home. It's every little thing.
Because it's very important, like literally. And I tell everybody, be patient with me. I mean, I don't know. And so I'll come to now, I'll just ask. You know, I stepped out of that zone of being embarrassed now, but it took a long time though. I was embarrassed. Like I didn't want to talk about it. I would talk about it with Daryl, right? Or a few other support team. But outside of that, it's embarrassing. It was humiliating. I was just like, wow, this is crazy. Learning all this different stuff and not knowing how to do it. It was definitely hard. I'm just thankful that I have a strong mindset and I have a strong team that's behind me. And so when I'm talking to them, they be like, man, me too, you know, or I understand because, you know, some of them been out 2 or 3 years already, right? And so they went through the same thing. And so it's very important that our family be patient with us, our girl be patient if you got a girl, and just be patient with yourself. That's the most important thing, is that we got to learn to be patient with ourselves and really not to be embarrassed, because you know we're a man, you know, we're trying to hold on to this, you know, image or you know, our pride, but it's okay not to know, because we've been gone. Everything, like when me and Daryl left, we had pagers. Like, you know, we had big brick cell phones, you know what I'm saying? You know, we had pay phones on almost every corner. You know what I mean? I can't find a pay phone now. I'm like, wow, well, what if I lose my phone and I need an emergency? I can't go use a pay phone.
And
So,
can't you take, and isn't public transportation now, you have to have an app on your phone?
yeah,
Absolutely.
I don't even know. I haven't got
People
in
get
it.
out, and I want to know what you guys would recommend, because you guys are fortunate, you have each other, you paroled around the same time, I believe, you have family and support, but what do you recommend to the guy that maybe just has an aunt or just has his mom and they're not going to be where he is to get through all that after transitional housing? What do you advise them? Because they, you know, they're not going to.
Sean, go ahead. I'll go after you, please.
No, go ahead, bro.
I want to say, first of all, despite who you have, it's almost as if you have no one because they don't understand you, first and foremost.
I agree.
For the person who only has an aunt or a sibling or whoever,
Just like one person far away.
one person far away, you have to find a group or an organization, or you have to find some people that you could talk to.
Yeah.
You have to. And I'm, again, this is something that I'm going to try to incorporate this in Central City Human Services, because I see there's a new need for people to have better relationship skills. You need somebody to talk to. I need somebody to talk to. Me and Sean talk. You know, I mean, we talk. I'm supposed to be working this middle of the night. I need to talk, bro. You know, because today was not a good day for me, and I don't trust nobody else like this. But you need somebody you can talk to, somebody you can be open and honest with, that's not going to judge you, and that's going to be real with you and tell you if you're in error. You know, and sometimes you got to, and you need somebody that if they give you sound advice, you'll take it. Like Michele, you gave sound advice, and like you say, some clients will take it, some won't. Literally, you gave sound advice. I wish someone would have gave me sound advice in a lot of areas, and not in a romantic relationship, but even with my family, because I came out wrong trying to deal with my family. You know, I came out wrong, you know, trying to deal with them, and it's created little hurdles because they only know the old person. They don't know me as a 50-year-old man, you know, because I realized every time they came to visit me in prison, my younger sister was just visiting her older brother. My older sister was visiting her little brother. My mom was visiting her little son. They never got the chance to see the man developing and growing. So when I came home, they thought I was a child. And because they can't dictate you know, and because things are not going the way they may want them to go, I may be in error. So we have a little friction right now. Well,
Right.
So we need somebody to talk to. If you only have that one person, and I think I haven't done this, and I want to do this. You need to have that one person talk to somebody with you.
Yes.
With that counselor.
And I also recommend that when you get out, I recommend before you get out, and this used to be taboo in prison. And if and back in the day, if you did this, the board would deny you. And that's go get a therapist.
I always recommend that. Yeah.
It's okay. Man, I love Daryl. We love talking to our therapists over there. Like, they were a great help, especially when I lost my mother and my sister and my grandmother in a span of 4 days. My whole world crumbled.
Wow.
And the only one that knew really what was going on was Daryl. And my therapist and them, they were there for me, and they helped me out a lot. I didn't relapse to go get drunk, go smoke weed. I didn't do none of that. I didn't act out in anger, because hurt people. And so I didn't do none of that. And so I recommend that even when you get out, go get you go to a transitional home, do therapy. I'm doing it now, but for right now, it hasn't been enough with my therapist. So I'm gonna find another one to do my therapy with.
I think it's essential, very, very essential, that people in prison really, I could have benefited so much from that. But when they used to come talk to us, they thought we had it made. They thought we were sound in mind. I used to go and say, I want to talk to somebody. Oh, God, you don't need nobody to talk to. But I really was reaching out for help. And they kind of made me believe that I did have it together. And then I'm coming home. I'm like every other American, it's a lot going on out here, a lot going on. And family, love and family is very complicated. I'm gonna say this, very complicated. But yeah, we're gonna have a part 2, part 3, and part 4 for certain, because I want to dig deep into the relationship aspect, and I want our listeners who are hearing us through their tablets in prison to get the new idea of getting some help before you come home. And I want the listeners, family members, to say, you know what, let me take the advice so that I can keep my family intact when they do return to us, because that's important.
And I want the family members to listen and understand that you're gonna have to be patient with us, and you're gonna have, and understand us, because that's what the biggest problem is, Joe. They don't understand what we've been through.
I'll say this: values. I have a set of values and principles that I live my life based upon, and some people in my family don't think that these values and principles are important, because the society that we're living in, some people don't put emphasis on spirituality and things like that. So there's things that I hold near and dear to me. And like Michele said, I could be in a house and I see some stuff, and that's like, whoa, you know? And each time I come to the house, what I see is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, so I don't want to go into the house no more. Yep. Or when they're around me, they're like, why you always got to say that? Why you always got to do this? But this is who I am. And, you know, this is what helped me become who I am to get out of prison so I can be a better person. And this works for me. But because it's not normal in their way of life, then it's a problem, you know? So this is real. Relationship is a big task.
It's a big thing. And I think we need to push that more and more, like, try to get the groups formed in prison, so these guys can take more relationship classes. I never thought about that, but coming out and experiencing it, you know, with family, old friends that's, you know, doing good and everything, relationships with your lady or whatnot, or your wife, it's very important that we start taking classes and learning and just getting more information. We need more information to not just for us, but for us to give it to our family members. And so what I've been trying to do is, like, talk to my family, like, hey, look, this is me, this is who I am, right? And then some of them, you know, well, I don't think, well, that's okay, that's fine that you don't think like that, but this is who I am and this is how I roll. And so some of them call attitudes. And so now I have the attitude, well, you know, well, okay, whatever. And so now they're calling, like, why you not calling me? Well, you know, you disregarding what how I feel and how I'm trying to live my life. because you want me to live the way and think the way you want me to think. That doesn't work like that. I'm a 50-year-old man, right? I came out of the belly of the beast. I survived it, and I'm coming out here to a bigger yard. We call this a bigger yard.
Yes,
We're on
sir.
a bigger yard. We're on the grandstand yard now.
Yes,
right?
this is the big yard.
Yeah, we in New York, really on Broadway. You know what I mean? So if I talk to you and you can't hear what I'm trying to tell you and what I'm going through and what I'm experiencing and who I am, right? And you just throw that out the window and you ignored it, then the best thing for me to do is just to remove myself from you.
I want to stop right there. Elizabeth, Michele, and neither one of you said this, but there comes a time when you find out or come to the realization that you may not be good for a person, and that person may not be good for you. If you stay in that, it could be detrimental. And I want to say, if anyone comes to that reality, I haven't came to that reality, but if anyone comes to that reality that the person that they believe they are in love with or were in love with or should be with because of a promise that you made here, there, or wherever, don't stay in something that's going to be bad or detrimental to you, because it could be tragic. And like Elizabeth may mention, the second highest reason for people returning to CDCR is domestic violence.
Yes.
And I'm sure there's people who never thought they would commit a domestic violence act, but pressure busts a pipe.
And it sends you to alcohol and drugs.
Yes, and if you're in something that's determined to be unhealthy or toxic, even if you need to break away for a moment to regain your composure or to get your footing back, I'm recommending that. I haven't been in that situation, but I'm recommending that because I don't want anyone to, first of all, we don't want any new victims. So we don't want anybody hurt on either side. And women hurt men too. I'm not gonna say that men are the only people who physically hurt women. Women physically hurt men too. There's a big phenomenon going on right now because they got all the guns, but that's another story. I'm being facetious right there. But if you're in a situation and it can be tragic and you feel fear for your safety, fear for your freedom, or fear for anything, then separate yourself. We have to give this advice, Sean.
Most definitely, because it's like sometimes I have to go back to that prison thinking, right? And so the same way when we was in prison and we were around certain people that was toxic to us, right? That wasn't conducive, that was hinder us from going home or take us back with this mindset of thinking, what we have to do. I got to remove myself from it. I got to separate. They might not like it because we was boys or whatever, so-called boys, whatever, right? But you toxic to me. You lead me in a different direction. Like when I'm around you, I want to do this or this and that, or you can get me in trouble because you're doing this and this and that. And so sometimes I go back to the prison thinking, which I don't think is a bad thing, because some things in prison kept me alive on the way I thought, right? And so I use that out here. And so if I feel like, as you said, if it's toxic, then I got to remove myself from you. Period. Whether you family, whether you girlfriend, it doesn't matter. Old friends, it don't matter.
And the thing is, we have to overcome those codependency issues. We have to overcome those immaturities, those insecurities, because those are the things that make us latch onto people and things and don't want to let go. And again, we talk about character defects and causative factors. And just like Michele said, my things that I incurred at 17 years old can resurface because your character defects don't disappear. We just have coping skills set in place to manage them.
Exactly.
But a lot of new occurrences, you got to go back and retreat and say, hey, how do I do this one? How do I deal with this? Because they can surface. And some have surfaced. But thank God I have these coping skills set in place. And I say, wow. So I go to work. You guys know me. I'm gonna go do overtime. I'm gonna get away from everybody because when I'm in that trucking yard, I'm not worried about nothing.
And that's how I do. I just give me the overtime.
But I shouldn't have to run away from everything, and subject myself to losing rest and sleep and things like that at the expense of not understanding what's going on in my personal life. And that's something that I do. So I'm putting that on the table because people want to know, why do I work so much? I'm not just out here chasing money. Sometimes I just need to think and I can't think when everybody's barking in my ear or trying
Most
to
definitely.
or want me to live up to their unrealistic expectations. And that's another thing. Hopefully, in the future, Elizabeth and Michele could talk about unrealistic expectations on both men and women's side.
Most definitely. I agree.
I did want to
definitely
just
agree.
piggyback on something Sean said about asking like the family and loved ones for patience. That's really important because a lot of times, like the advice that I give that advice to my clients, not to live right with somebody else. And I've heard it, I can't tell you how many times, well, she's not going to wait for me. She's waited for me this long. Like she's not going to wait for me not to move in her house. And so for one thing, if someone truly loves you, they're going to wait for you to be your best you and do what's best for you in your recovery, straight up.
Yes.
But for the family members that are listening, you know, we all want to be with our loved ones. And I know that there are people that have waited, 20 years, 25 years. I've had clients that were down for 40 years and their wives stuck by them. And so it is a hard decision to make, but if an extra 6 months where you can still see the person, especially once you're in your own apartment, you can still see each other every day. You can still stay at each other's houses off and on, but you have your own responsibilities and you get to know each other in the free world. That little bit of time will fly by and it'll be so beneficial to your relationship in the long run. So the patience is necessary.
I agree.
I think the patience and the advice is wonderful. I really do, because we're both. I'm hopefully exiting my transitional house within the next month and a half, because I'm completing my classes. I only have a few left to do.
That's right.
A few makeup. I'm almost at the end, and this is a lot that need to be understood. A lot of internal discussions I need to have with myself, because I want to succeed, and my level of success may not be another person's level of success. Because some people think they're successful as long as you're laying next to them and you're saying, I love you. But I mean, that's not everyone's terminology or definition of success or happiness,
Right.
Especially for a person coming out of prison, when we want to be somebody. I want something else. I want something else than besides a CDC number next to my name. When
Most
you Google
definitely.
my name, I want something else next to it. I want them to see that degree. I want them to see what I'm doing. And I can only do that if I put in the work. And sometimes family gets in the way of you accomplishing your goals.
Yes. And even your girlfriend can get in the way, or your wife, whoever you have. So
yeah,
you definitely got to be mindful.
Yeah. No, really. And the thing is, if that happens, and if they try to, it may not even be a conscious effort.
Right.
So like you just said, loved ones want to be with their loved ones. I want to be with my loved ones.
Most
But
definitely.
I know if I just sit around,
I said, especially when they've missed you and they've been waiting for you. So a lot of it's a tough thing to kind of understand that it's for the benefit of you.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I mean, really, it's the honest to God truth, because people have waited, people want you. But what about me becoming my best me first? Because me going through these trials and having these little spats and things I go through is not helpful for me or to anybody else, and hopefully we can, in the next couple of weeks, we can help people understand this, which means, Michele, we're expecting to see you again real soon.
Just let me know.
And
Okay.
I want to add to, to the fact, to those of us who gets out, right? Because I was thinking about this week, I was going to pull my relapse prevention plan out and go over it again, right? I have to bring it up. It's important that you go over your relapse prevention plan, because you formed it around you. And so when we start going through these different things, because it's times that I haven't pulled it out, and then I just was sitting. The other day I was driving, because I drive a lot for my job. And so while I was driving, I was just like, wow, I haven't went over my relapse prevention plan in about 2 months. And so, we need them things to look at to refresh in our memory. Oh yeah, okay, this is what I'm supposed to. This is what happens when this trigger me. And so it's important, once again, keep your relapse prevention plan. Family members, tell your loved ones when they come home, bring that relapse prevention plan with them. And I think family members should read their loved ones' relapse prevention plan, because that relapse prevention plan gives them a better understanding of the individual, their loved one that's coming home. I think that's very important.
And Sean, not to cut you off, because you looking at me, I'm looking at you. I want to, everyone needs to know, and Elizabeth, Michelle, you can vouch for this. We're at our best when we're preparing for the board.
Yes.
What's in our relapse prevention plan, what's in our paperwork is the absolute best of us. And I want someone to hold me accountable to everything I put on paper. But do you
Yes.
know, there's people who I've asked, hey, you want to read this with me so you can understand me? I don't have time for that. I don't need to do that. They don't understand. And it's okay. It's okay. But it's so important because I was at my best. So Sean, when you look at your relapse prevention plan, ask yourself, have I lapsed from any of this?
Most
Because
definitely.
that's you at your best. Because that's something that I do with myself routinely. And I ask myself, am I sticking to this? Because this is the best me right here in black and white.
Yes, indeed. That I sat down for years and for months, all the way up to the board of looking into myself and figuring out things. And that's the biggest thing. The hardest thing for people to do is think. People don't like thinking, and people don't like looking into themselves. It's too much work for them, right? It's ugly, right? But what's in the dark, right? And you look, pain is information. It won't kill you. It just will enlighten you. So when I stub my finger, exactly. So when I stub that finger, that pain, that's information. It's letting me know that, hey, your finger's swelling up, you broke it.
Something's
Go get
wrong.
it fixed.
Something's
Something
wrong.
is wrong. And so we have to remember that. And so, yeah, Daryl, I'm with you on that. So just family members, tell your loved ones, bring their relapse prevention plan home. Those of y'all that's in there listening to it, bring your relapse prevention home. Go over it. Even as Daryl said, even while you're in there, look at it, read it, and say, okay, this is me. Am I doing my best? Am I following this? Right? Because that'll keep you on the path in prison too. Because you can sway in prison as you do out here in the streets. Doesn't matter where you at, free or not free.
Absolutely.
So it's important.
Yeah.
Elizabeth.
I appreciate you guys saying that I'm sorry about just taking home your plans, because now I'm telling my clients, this isn't for board anymore. This is for the rest of your life, and you're going to take it home with you. And so now we can get more detailed. So I just you guys mentioned that a couple of times ago when I was here.
And then I'm thinking about adding to my relapse prevention plan because I've experienced some new things, right?
Well, you
some new emotions.
You should.
Like a resume.
You most definitely should. You definitely should.
Every self-help class, every new experience, update it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because things change. We evolve, we grow, right? So what might have been this and this and that, I'm like, oh, okay, let me add this on here. Let me change this. Elizabeth, you have anything you wanted to say?
I agree with Daryl. This is a good topic and it deserves a lot more discussion. We're kind of at the end of our hour though. And so I really do appreciate Michele coming on the show because she is so insightful and the way she describes things as well is just so valuable to us. And
we definitely appreciate her coming on.
And the listeners. So yeah, I love that. So let's just wrap it up. It makes me hearken back to Daryl's original thing when he asked for the permission to go visit his family or something from his parole agent. She said, I don't know you like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now we kind of have a new perspective on why she said that, because you're on your best behavior and now you want permission to do something. And she's like, I don't know, maybe later. So I just thought about that. And that's for families and wives and husbands and all these different things is, I don't know you like that. I only know you in the visiting room at this point. So let's wrap it up and we'll see and hear from everybody next week. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Listeners. We look forward to next week. Stand by. Be ready.